It was one of those mornings when everything felt quiet, almost too quiet. I sat by the window of my small apartment, the pale sunlight spilling across the table, falling over the half-empty mug of coffee that had long gone cold. The city outside buzzed faintly, but it all felt far away, like I was watching life happen through a thick pane of glass. 3 months. That's how long it had been since the breakdown, since the hospital, since the world, my world, had changed. When people talk about hitting rock bottom, they never tell you what comes after. For me, it was silence, the kind that hums in your head even when everything around you is still. The day I was discharged, the doctor said softly, "Take it one day at a time." But he didn't tell me how to do that when every day feels exactly the same. The pills on the table stared back at me like small, lifeless promises. The walls of the apartment, once filled with laughter and music, now echoed with a dull emptiness. I picked up my phone. No new messages, no calls, just the same familiar emptiness I'd grown used to. That's when I thought of her, Maya. We hadn't spoken in almost a year, not since that night. The fight, the shouting, the slammed door. I could still see the look in her eyes, anger laced with something softer, something I hadn't understood back then. But now I understood too much. Without thinking, I opened our old chat, scrolled past the unread messages, the arguments, the good mornings that stopped suddenly, like someone cut the wire halfway through a song. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Should I? Should I really do this after all this time? But then again, what was the worst that could happen? She wouldn't reply? I was already used to silence. I typed, "Hey Maya, it's been a while. I was wondering if you'd like to visit sometime. I'd really like to see you." I stared at the words for a long moment, my heart pounding harder than it should. Then, before I could change my mind, I hit send. Seconds stretched into minutes. Nothing. I sighed and set the phone down, forcing a smile at my own foolishness. Maybe it was too much to ask. Maybe I didn't deserve it. I walked towards the balcony, the small space that had become my escape. From there, the city looked alive. People walking fast, horns blaring, life happening in real time. And here I was, paused. Then, ping! I froze. The sound of a notification. I turned around slowly, heart racing. The phone screen glowed. Maya. "You're awake early. I was just thinking about you." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I sat down on the couch, reading her message again and again, as if the words would vanish if I blinked. I typed back, my hands trembling. "I'm sorry about everything. It's been rough lately. I could really use some company." Her reply came quicker this time. "I know. I heard about the hospital. Are you okay now?" My throat tightened. She knew. I wanted to lie, say I was fine, but what would be the point? Getting there still feels strange sometimes. Like I'm here, but not really here. A typing bubble appeared, then vanished, then appeared again. Finally, "Can I come over today?" I blinked. I hadn't expected that. A part of me wanted to say no, that the apartment wasn't ready, that I wasn't ready, but another part, the part that still believed in something, whispered, Say yes. Yeah, I typed. Anytime after 3. When the message was sent, I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in months, I felt something. Not happiness, not exactly, but the faint spark of it, like a light trying to flicker back on. The hours passed slower than I'd ever known. Every sound felt amplified. The ticking clock, the hum of the fridge, even the wind brushing past the curtains. I found myself cleaning, not because I cared about the mess, but because I didn't want her to see the version of me I'd become. Empty bottles went into the trash. The clothes that had been piled up on the chair finally made it into the closet. I even opened the windows, letting in some light that hurt my eyes at first. By the time the clock hit 3:15, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. A knock. My heart jumped. I walked to the door slowly, each step feeling heavier than the last. When I opened it, there she was, Maya. The same deep eyes, the same half smile. But something in her had changed too. A softness, maybe. Or maybe I was just seeing her differently. Hey, I managed. She tilted her head. Hey yourself. You look better than I expected. I laughed nervously. That's not saying much. She smiled, stepping inside. The faint smell of her perfume, jasmine and something faintly citrus, filled the room. For a second, it almost felt like time hadn't moved at all. You cleaned up, she said, looking around. Yeah, I shrugged. Didn't want you thinking I lived like a total disaster. She chuckled and sat on the couch, her eyes scanning the room, the photos still hanging, the ones I never took down. One photo caught her gaze. Us, 2 years ago, on the pier. Wind in our hair, sunlight on our faces. She pointed. You still kept that? I couldn't throw it away, I said quietly. Didn't want to. There was silence for a while. Not awkward, just heavy. Then she looked at me and said softly, I missed you. Those 3 words hit harder than I expected. My throat went dry. I missed you too, I whispered. She smiled, but there was sadness in it. So, how have you been holding up? I exhaled, trying. Some days are okay, some aren't. Do you still get the thoughts? She asked carefully. I nodded. Less than before, but yeah, they sneak in sometimes. She reached out, just a small gesture, her fingers brushing mine. You're stronger than you think, she said. For a moment, I wanted to believe her. We talked for hours about nothing and everything, about old movies, mutual friends, even this stupid coffee shop where we used to fight over whose playlist was better. It felt normal again, familiar. But deep down, I knew something had shifted, something quiet, unspoken. As the sun dipped low outside, the room turned golden, warm, peaceful. She looked at me for a long time, then said, I'm glad you reached out. Me too, I said. I didn't think you'd come. Her eyes softened. Neither did I. That night, after she left, the apartment didn't feel empty anymore. I stood by the window again, watching the streetlights flicker below. And for the first time in a long while, I felt human. Not healed, not whole, but alive. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying every word, every glance, every silence that passed between us. Maya's voice lingered in my head, soft, warm, and steady. It had a way of silencing the noise in me, even for just a moment. For months, my nights were filled with shadows. Now, for the first time, they were filled with memories. And maybe that was worse, because memories never fade quietly. The next morning, I woke up to a soft vibration on my phone. Maya. Morning. Did you sleep? I smiled at the screen. A bit. You? Barely. Kept thinking about yesterday. It was good to see you. Yeah, I wrote back. Felt like breathing again. She didn't reply right away, but the small typing bubble appeared and disappeared, like she was writing something and deleting it again and again. Finally, she sent, "Maybe I could drop by again later?" I stared at that message for a few seconds, my heart fluttering like something fragile. "I'd like that," I typed. She came again that afternoon, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Didn't trust you to make it right," she teased, handing one to me. I grinned. "You're not wrong." We sat by the window this time, legs crossed, watching the street below. The world seemed smaller when she was around. Quieter, almost. Manageable. "Do you ever think about the old days?" I asked. "All the time," she said. "Especially the good ones. The ones we didn't appreciate enough when they were happening." I nodded, taking a sip. "I used to think we'd last forever, you know?" She looked at me then, not with pity, but something gentler. "Maybe forever doesn't mean what we thought it did." I frowned. "What does it mean then?" "Maybe it just means the parts of us that mattered never really left." There was a silence, long, thoughtful, and for a moment I wanted to reach out and hold her hand, but I didn't. Not yet. Days started blurring together again, but not like before. Now they had a rhythm. Maya would visit in the afternoons, we'd talk, laugh, cook sometimes. She'd make too much pasta, and I'd pretend to complain, but always eat it all. The apartment began to change, little by little. Maya brought a plant once, a small cactus, she said. Low maintenance, like me. It sat by the window now, catching sunlight, surviving where most things wouldn't. One evening, as the rain began to fall, Maya stayed longer than usual. The lights were dim, a soft hum of music playing in the background, the kind of quiet that feels full, not empty. She was sitting on the couch, legs tucked under a blanket, scrolling through her phone. I watched her, the way the light from the lamp touched her face, the way she smiled softly at something unseen. "Do you ever wish things had gone differently?" I asked, suddenly. She looked up, her eyes searching mine. "What do you mean?" "If we hadn't ended," she sighed. "Sometimes, but I think we needed to." Needed to? Yeah, to break, to grow, to figure out who we were without each other. I chuckled quietly. "Did you figure it out?" She smiled faintly. "Almost. You?" I stared out the window, the rain tapping gently against the glass. Still trying. The conversation drifted into silence again, but this one felt heavier, charged. Then she said, almost in a whisper, "You scared me that night." I turned to her. "Which night?" "The night you called me before the hospital. You sounded gone." My chest tightened. I didn't want to remember that night. "I didn't mean to scare you," I said softly. "I know, but I didn't know what to do. You wouldn't let anyone in. You shut us all out." "I thought I was doing everyone a favor," I muttered. "Didn't want to drag anyone into the mess." She set her phone aside and leaned forward. "You weren't a mess. You were just lost." Her voice cracked slightly. "We all get lost sometimes." Something in me broke then. I didn't want to cry, not in front of her, but the weight of it all had been waiting for this exact moment to collapse. She moved closer, resting her hand on mine. For the first time in months, I didn't pull away. Minutes passed in silence, broken only by the rain. Then, quietly, I said, "When I was in the hospital, I kept thinking, if I make it out, I'll tell her everything I never said." She looked at me carefully. "What didn't you say?" I took a deep breath. "That I loved you. That I still do." Her eyes glistened. "You can't just say that like it's nothing." "It's not nothing. It's the only thing that still feels real." She shook her head slightly, tears welling up. "You don't understand. I moved on. I tried to move on." "I know, but I had to tell you anyway." The room fell silent again. The rain outside had slowed, the air thick with the kind of quiet that feels like a held breath. Finally, she said, "You can't keep holding on to something that's already gone." "Maybe. But if I let it go, what's left of me?" Her face softened. "You. Just you." And that's enough. After she left that night, the apartment felt heavier again, but not empty. I sat by the cactus on the windowsill, tracing its sharp little spines. It was still standing tall, untouched by the rain, by the world, somehow surviving. Maybe that's what she wanted me to be. But part of me wondered, if she'd really moved on, why did she come back? Why did she still look at me like that? A few days later, she texted less. No coffee cups, no late visits. Just silence again. At first, I told myself she was busy, but deep down, I knew something had shifted. One night, I called. No answer. Called again, straight to voicemail. Her voice, soft but distant, played through the speaker. "Hey, it's Maya. Leave a message." I sat there listening to that line over and over until my throat burned. Finally, I whispered, "I just wanted to say thank you for showing up when I needed you most. I'll be okay. I promise." Then I hung up. The next morning, a message waited on my phone. "Maya, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disappear. It's just things got complicated." I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because for the first time, I understood. Some things aren't meant to be fixed. Some people just walk with you for a while until you can walk again on your own. I looked at the cactus still standing by the window, alive, quiet, just like me. That afternoon, I went outside for the first time in weeks. The world was loud again, but this time I didn't mind. People moved past me, talking, laughing, living, and for once, I felt like I was part of it. As I crossed the street, I caught sight of a small cafe, a familiar place, our place. I smiled faintly. Maybe one day, I'd go in. Not today. It had been nearly 2 weeks since I last heard from her. Every day I still found myself checking the phone out of habit, half expecting her name to light up the screen again. But it never did. At first I told myself I was okay, that I didn't need her messages to keep going. But some nights when the world went quiet and the shadows stretched longer, I'd catch myself whispering her name, softly, like a secret I wasn't ready to forget. The cactus by the window had started to bloom, a small white flower pushing out from its rough shell. I stared at it for a long time, wondering how something so sharp could still hold something so delicate inside. Maybe healing worked like that too. One rainy evening, I decided to go out again. No reason, no plan, just a feeling. The city was soaked in silver light, street lamps glowing through the drizzle. I walked aimlessly, hands in pockets, following the rhythm of raindrops hitting the pavement. Then I saw it. The cafe. Our cafe. Same glass windows fogged with warmth, same yellow lights flickering inside. For a long moment, I just stood there, watching people talk, laugh, sip coffee. Then, before I could talk myself out of it, I walked in. The bell above the door chimed softly. The smell hit me first. Coffee, vanilla, and nostalgia. The girl behind the counter looked up. "Table for one?" I nodded faintly. "Yeah, just one." She handed me a menu, but I didn't need it. I already knew what I wanted. "2 cappuccinos," I said automatically, then paused. Old habits. "Make that 1," I added quietly. I sat by the window, watching the rain trickle down the glass. Every detail in that cafe whispered her name. The corner table we used to fight over, the broken clock that never got fixed, even the playlist humming softly in the background. For a moment, I could almost see her, sitting across from me, laughing about something small, brushing her hair behind her ear. But when I blinked, she was gone. Just the empty chair. I exhaled slowly, the weight of silence pressing against my chest. Then, a voice. Familiar. "Hey!" I looked up. It was Rena, Maya's friend. We'd met a few times back when everything was still good. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual. "Been a while?" She smiled softly, then hesitated. I wasn't sure if I should say hi. "You should," I said. "It's good to see you." She sat down across from me, eyes gentle. "You've been okay?" I shrugged. "Trying. You know how it goes." There was a pause. Then she sighed. "You heard from Maya?" My heart skipped. Not in a while. Why? Rena looked down, fidgeting with her ring. I didn't know how to tell you. I thought maybe she had. A quiet unease crawled up my spine. What, tell me? She met my eyes, and in that instant, I already knew it wasn't good. She left, Rena said softly. Moved away. Her job offered her a transfer. She said it was better that way. For the both of you. The words hit harder than I expected. She didn't say goodbye, I whispered. Rena's eyes shimmered. She wanted to, but she thought if she saw you again, she wouldn't be able to leave. I looked away, my throat tight. Figures. She really cared, you know that, Rena added. More than she let on. I nodded, unable to speak. After Rena left, I stayed in the cafe long after my cup had gone cold. Outside, the rain had stopped. The streets glowed under the street lamps, reflections rippling like moving memories. I thought about Maya, about all the words we never said, all the times we could have tried harder, and all the ways we still mattered, even when we couldn't be together. Maybe this was how it was supposed to end, quietly, gently, without a final goodbye. Because maybe some stories don't end, they just change shape. That night, back home, I stood by the window again. The city pulsed beneath me, alive, unstoppable. The cactus flower had opened completely now, glowing white in the dim light. I reached out and touched the pot gently. You made it, I whispered. Guess I did too. For the first time in forever, I didn't feel the urge to check my phone. Didn't feel the need to wait. The silence that used to hurt now felt peaceful. Weeks passed. I started going out more. Grocery stores, bookshops, long walks with no destination. Sometimes I'd catch a glimpse of someone with her hair, her walk, her laughter. And every time my heart would jump, then settle. It didn't ache like before. It just remembered. One evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, I sat at my desk, a blank page in front of me. For months, I hadn't been able to write. Every word felt like a reminder of what I'd lost. But tonight, it felt different. I picked up the pen and began to write. Sometimes healing isn't loud. It's quiet mornings and long silences. It's learning to live again, even when the person who helped you remember how to breathe isn't there anymore. I paused, smiled faintly, and wrote one last line. Maybe she was never meant to stay. Maybe she was just meant to remind me that I could. I closed the notebook, leaned back, and let the silence fill the room. For the first time in forever, I didn't want to escape it. Outside, the city lights flickered. Somewhere in the distance, a new song began to play. Soft, hopeful, almost familiar. And as the night settled in, I whispered into the quiet. Thank you, Maya, for visiting, for coming back, even if only for a while. Then I turned off the light and let the darkness feel like home again. Not because it was empty, but because this time I wasn't afraid of it anymore.